Hi, this is Tracy, and welcome to the Woman Within You podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. So, today's episode is titled, Why I Hate Father's Day. If I'm being quite honest with you, this holiday has never really meant much to me. And it's not because I don't have a father or because I'm bitter or angry or anything about the relationship that I have with my father. Because I know that some people probably feel this way about Mother's Day, but sometimes you have to accept apologies that you will never receive. And I personally feel like Father's Day, especially with social media now, everyone expects you to make a collage and say how great your father is, or how great your spouse is, or how great your baby daddy is, or whatever the situation is. And for me, I don't want to do that, because you know what? It would be a lie. It would be a lie for me, because that's not my truth. That's not my truth. My truth is not that my father is a great father. He might be a great man. He might be great to other people. But if we're keeping it all the way real, my father was not a great father to me. And even to this day, at 36 years old, he's still not a great father to me. And I don't know if it's because I have false expectations of what a father should be, but it just doesn't work for me. He isn't there for me. He's not there for me emotionally. I can never call him and be like, hey, can I borrow a couple bucks? In fact, I probably couldn't call anyone and ask him for a couple bucks. But the point is he's a beloved man, and he has a stature, and he has titles. And honestly, I have contemplated, deleting him off of my social media pages, because all of the praise that he gets from other people, and the way he loves on other people, and the way he treats other people is really a trigger point for me as his daughter, whereas we don't have that relationship. And for years and years, I thought it was my fault. I thought it was because I was too fat. I thought it was because I wasn't beautiful enough. I thought it was because I wasn't doing things that made him happy. Can you just imagine if the only person you want in the world to say that they're proud of you has never said it, or you've never felt that it was genuinely said? It's so hurtful. And my mom did a really good job of trying to tell me, you know what, it's not you, it's him. It's not anything that you did as a person, it's him. But to see him raise other people's children, to see him be a mentor to other people, to see him be a grandfather to other people, but yet can't be part of our lives on a consistent basis, is really, really triggering for my emotions, and it's really, really triggering for my mental health. And I feel like it's even more difficult for me to accept it. It's even more difficult for me to sit back and watch all of these things happen on social media. And today, as I sit here and I think about Father's Day, and I think about the meaning of Father's Day, and I compare it to the meaning of Mother's Day, it makes me very sad, because I've always wanted a situation where I could just run up to my dad and be like, hi, Daddy, I love you. I've always wanted to be a daddy's girl. I've always seen other people have relationships with their father, and their father be right there for them, and their father be, a constant in their lives, whether they lived in a household or not. When I was younger, I remember packing my backpack because my father was supposed to come and pick me up. And I remember sitting on the porch. We lived in a co-op at the time. And I would sit on the porch, and my mother would say to me, oh, your dad said he'll be here, let's say 6 o'clock, for example. And I would get my book bag. It would be all packed, and I would be super excited. And I would sit on the porch, and I would wait, and I would wait, and I would wait. And it would become dark outside, and there was no sign of him. There was no phone call. There was nothing. And you're talking in the 80s. There was no cell phone. You couldn't send a quick text message. But I would wait and wait and wait. And then eventually, when it would get dark, I would have to go back in. And of course, I'm not with him. And it's not to say that happened every single time, but those are the moments that I remember. I try to repress those memories, and I try to move forward and think about the times that we were happy. And my father had a fancy car when I was younger. I remember it was a Cadillac, and it had like a spoiler. And he would take me there, and he would take me to this place in our area called T-Bones, and he would take me to McDonald's. So those are the memories that I try to hold on to. But I have to be honest with you. Those negative memories and those memories of him not showing up for me has always been there. And it's very hurtful to me because even now as a woman, I want to have a really good relationship with my dad. I've never had a conversation with him to tell him how I felt. I've written him letters as I try to heal from this situation in notebooks, and I just never mail them. I did read them to one of my siblings that he has from him. And, you know, he was just like, wow, because sometimes I feel like I can express my emotions better on paper than I can if I was to talk to him, because for some reason, whenever I'm around him, I clam up. I melt, like I become this little girl. I'm not as strong. And I don't know why. I don't know why I can't talk to him. I don't know why I can't tell him how I really feel. I don't know why. And it's like I try to make strides. I try to call. I try to make efforts. But in my recent days, I just stopped because I'm tired of trying to be the one to build a relationship. And I'm being very vulnerable with you all and telling you my personal life. And it's so hurtful to me because I want my dad. And my mother, she was so diligent in trying to get a dad for me, but it wasn't my dad. And I don't know if that makes sense to you or some of you can relate to that. It wasn't my dad. I had a stepfather, and yeah, he's a nice man. And, you know, of course, when you're a teenager, you go through the motions of having a stepfather. You're not my dad and all this kind of stuff. But all in all, when I think about it, he definitely tried to make sure that I had a good life. He definitely took me on vacations. He definitely tried to play that father figure role in my life. And now I appreciate it. I'm sure I didn't appreciate it back then, but I'm telling you now I do. Especially me being married and one of my children having my husband as their stepfather. I now see the difference. But at the same time, I want my dad. I want him to say, you know what, Patrice, I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job. You beat the odds. Yes, you was a teen mom. Yes, you finished school. Yes, you went all the way. I don't want to feel shamed around him. I don't want to feel like I'm not good enough to be his daughter, whereas he praises everybody else. It's very hurtful to me because I want my dad. I want him to be part of my life. I want to be daddy's little girl. And maybe I have false expectations and false hope because I saw other people's relationships with their dad. And I realized that mine wasn't the same. So maybe that's the reason why it makes me so upset. But I know that every single time that Father's Day comes around, I feel this way, and I've never really expressed it to anyone because it's like it's Father's Day, and I know he doesn't live in the state with me, but I want to be able to call him, and I want to be able to say, "Hi, Daddy, I love you. Hi, Daddy, I miss you. Hi, Dad, I'm coming down for 2 weeks in the summer." I can't do that because we don't have that type of relationship, and as much as I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, it's just unsuccessful, and I just want to stop trying. And that's what I did. I did that. I stopped trying. And you know what? No one else is trying. So therefore, there is no relationship because if I'm not doing it, no one else is. And I know the Bible says, honor your mother and your father. And I swear I still honor them. I swear I still honor my father. But at the same time, it's like when things are triggers to you, you have to focus on your mental health first. You can't just sit here and allow these things to burn you and allow these things to make you upset. I cry as I record this podcast because I know that this day was coming and I knew how I was going to feel. And I knew that as soon as I signed on to social media that I would see all the wonderful Father's Day posts. And I can't do that because that's not my truth. And I don't want to be fake. And I don't want to be phony. And I only have just a few pictures of us together because I don't see him that often. And when I do, it's not a happy occasion. All I want is a relationship with my dad. And I don't know how to get it. I don't know how to fix it. Yesterday, I read an article about a note to women with estranged fathers on Father's Day. And one of the tips and tricks that they gave you was that you're not alone. You're not a bad daughter. And don't let all the smiling faces and anecdotes about how Father's Day will be spent fool you. A lot of people have less than perfect relationships with their dad. It doesn't mean that you're strange or you're bad for not celebrating the holiday, but this means nothing to me. This holiday means nothing. It may mean something for my husband, and I'm definitely going to treat him that way. But for me, on Father's Day, when you're supposed to be celebrating your father, it means nothing to me. And that relationship with him doesn't define me. I let it define me for so many years, but it doesn't. My mother was such a big influence in my life. And I'm sure that if I would have had my father, I wouldn't have made such poor choices in men. I probably wouldn't have even been a teen mom. In the same breath, I say that I'm grateful that my mother raised me and that I found my own strength in being raised by a single mother. And I'm not holding a grudge against him. I love him. I love him dearly. But what triggers me is the love that he gives to everyone but me. That's a trigger for me. It's like I just want him to love me. Or maybe he does love me. I'm his firstborn. I'm the oldest child he has. Maybe he does love me, but he just has a funny way of showing it. And I really feel like sometimes he doesn't care because he's never asked me how I felt. He's never apologized. He knew what we went through growing up. He knew the bikes that never came. He knew those days, or maybe he didn't know. My husband always says, you know what? Maybe he doesn't have a relationship with you right now because he feels guilty for not being there. And he feels guilty because he knows that he was not a force in your success in this time in your life. And I have to continue to tell myself that. Otherwise, it's a trigger for me and I'm upset and it makes me angry and it affects my mental health when I think about it. So I just try to be strong. I just try to raise the kids the best I know how. I know that my mother did an amazing job with me, and I thank her all the time for that part of our lives. And I thank her for trying to give me a father figure, a male figure in my life. And it's really hard for her too because she's stuck in the middle. But you want to know something weird? My mother talks to him. I don't talk to him. He doesn't talk to me much, but he will talk to my mother. It's the weirdest thing ever. And you know, it's a point of contention for me and my mother as well, because it's like, Mom, why wouldn't you tell him? And I'm really sharing a lot about my life right now. And I hope my mother, if you're listening, I hope you're not upset, but we've had these conversations and hopefully me talking about this can aid in the healing of other people. But I've said to my mother, why do you talk to him? Why haven't you told him how I felt? And she says, but you know what? It's not my battle to fight. If you want to have a conversation with him, you can. He knows everything that he's done. He's known the things that he's lacked in your life or the place that he's lacked in your life. He knows that. And I've always wanted differently for my kids. I've always wanted my kids to have a relationship with their dad. My daughter belongs to my husband, so she has that. And my husband is a father figure to my son. But my son's dad isn't in our lives either. And those, I'm telling you, it's generational curses that repeat themselves. And I want to stop that curse right now. And that's why it's important for me to make sure that our marriage is solid and that they have a good, loving home. And I want to make sure that I provide, and I know that providing for them is not a relationship for my son with his father. And if you listen to the podcast, then you'll understand the scenario behind me being a teen mom and the lack of relationship that my son has. But I don't want to repeat these generational curses. And it's really, really hard for me because I am an advocate. And it's like, I can't even advocate for myself with my dad. And this is some soul searching and some healing that I still need. I thought I was healed. I thought writing those letters and not mailing them and reading them over and over again was healing for me. But the more I check Facebook and the more I see the people praising him and the more I see him being a father figure and a mentor to other people in the community, as well as a father to his stepchildren and step grandchildren or whatever you want to call them, it's a trigger for me. And it's a point of contention in my life. And I realize that I am not healed and that I need healing. And so as Father's Day approaches, I just want to know that, number one, I don't like this holiday. And number two, I'm thankful for my mother for all she's done and for how she's raised me. And number three, I still need healing from this situation. And I will get healing from this situation. It's not over for me. Maybe one day I will have this conversation with my father. Maybe one day he'll understand. Maybe one day I'll even get an apology. I'm not holding my breath, but maybe one day I will get this. Maybe one day I will understand why he wasn't there for me. Maybe one day I will feel the love that he gives to other people. Maybe one day I will be grateful for this experience and I can share it with other people. I'm just so upset. I'm going to post this on Father's Day. I'm just so weary today because I want the love from my Father. Let's get to our affirmation. I am worthy of love and deserve to receive love in abundance. How fitting. I'll repeat it. I am worthy of love and deserve to receive love in abundance. Well, thank you so much for listening. And remember, you are strong, you are fearless, and most of all, you are beautiful. Thank you and have a great week.